Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Archie's Briefings. I'm your host, Arshel Branch, and today, you guys, we are going to talk about the ridiculous notion that the left have about conservatives, Republicans being responsible for all of these Tesla attacks. Now, I'm not going to show any of the video footage of the attacks because I don't want to be flagged on YouTube. I don't know if you can, but I am going to show you guys a couple of things today so we can just look at how ridiculous this notion actually is. But before we go ahead and do that, if you guys are new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, the notification bell so that you never miss an episode. And let's go ahead, you guys. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this ridiculous idea. Okay.
There is something that has been on my heart that I did want to discuss. Discipline is a huge part of being productive, being lucrative. I'm not for anything that goes against true productivity, true sovereignty of the individual. The choices that we make are what's going to be up for judgment.
All right, you guys. So as I said in the open, we're going to talk about this ridiculous idea that we're seeing. Really, I mean, it's coming from people on the left, it's coming from CNN, that somehow the American people are not happy with what's going on with DOGE. Really, that's what these are, the anti-DOGE protests. And with all the information that we're seeing coming out about DOGE, that they would think that we're too stupid to draw the dot, draw the line, connect the dots, realize that this is actually just a bunch of crap, that these protests, that these town halls are not actually by the very constituents that they say are complaining, that the people who are attacking the Teslas are not conservative. And I think that we have, well, more recent history to kind of prove that this is obviously not Republicans. I mean, really, the fact that this is even an idea that they have, or just a bullet point, a talking point that they are even saying is a thing, that somehow conservatives are so furious that they can go out here and destroy Teslas and be a part of these riots.
What?
That's just a ridiculous thing to believe. I mean, let's just look at some of the history here. I mean, we're talking about defund the police, chop Chaz zones. I mean, this wasn't people on the this wasn't people on the right. This weren't Republicans, conservatives, and of course, the big thing that they always turn to is January 6th. Oh, but January 6th, if they can do something like that, then clearly they could be responsible for the Tesla vandalism. I mean, what if people bought Teslas? I mean, literally 2 years ago or a year before, a few months before Elon was given the position. I mean, you're just going around destroying people's Teslas. I mean, this doesn't sound like something a conservative would do. I mean, if we don't like you, we're just not going to buy from you anymore. I mean, that's Bud Light, that's Target. When we decide to come after businesses, we just decide not to buy from you anymore, and that tanks, right? Bud Light suffered those consequences. Target suffered those consequences, right? When we're not happy, we just don't buy from you. That's how we protest. We protest with our wallets, not by going out there and acting out in violence and destroying other people's property. I mean, this is a tactic of the left and have been for years. Okay, so now you guys, I'm going to show you a clip of Scott Jennings. Love Scott Jennings. You guys know I love Scott Jennings. I think he's fantastic. I think he's a great strategist for conservatives, and he has the same sentiment that I think a lot of us conservatives have. Don't help the Democrats. They're in free fall. They're all over the place. They're scrambling to find a voice. The most popular name that they have to be the candidate for 2028 is doing a podcast, but a lifestyle podcast, not actually addressing the problems that the American people have. So I'm going to play you guys the clip of Scott Jennings on CNN, where he really just kind of rips into this woman. And I loved every minute of this because sometimes the women on the show really annoy the crap out of me. They're passive aggressive, they're condescending, and somehow they don't understand why when Scott Jennings retaliates in a strong, manly manner, that somehow they are taken back, clutching their pearls, entirely shocked that he decided to respond like a man. So let's go ahead and let's run that clip, shall we? Okay, guys, so this is the clip here with Scott Jennings, and this is the woman here, Neera Tanden, I believe her name is, as I said. So I'm just going to run it. Let's go ahead and let's watch it, shall we?
People ought to be put in jail and left there for a very long time and be taught a lesson.
So when they do it to a Tesla dealership, it's really bad. But when they do it to the halls of Congress, we should pardon them. Is that your position?
No, I've never. I don't
Are
support,
we okay with the January 6th pardons?
I know you have.
Okay, before I let them go on, let's just say this, okay? Is that your position? So if it happens here, then it's really bad. But if you're saying it's okay here, like, did I say that it was okay there? Like, woman, do you even know me? Like, the condescension is annoying. The passive aggressiveness is irritating. And the problem that I have with women like this is that I don't think they know that it is offensive. That somehow because you think you're sounding polite, that it's polite. No, it's kind of snarky and excuse my language, but it's a bit bitchy. So, I don't like it. Don't be passive aggressive. Don't be condescending. You could just say, well, you're one to talk when you're from the side who supported January 6th. I mean, she'd still be wrong because that's not his position, but at least you're upfront about your dislike. Like, stop pretending that you're a nice person. It annoys the crap out of me. Let's go ahead and let it continue.
I've been around for a while, so let me educate you about my position about January.
I'm so sorry.
Let me educate you.
No,
you don't need to. You don't need to be condescending to me. So let me educate you about my position. You want to attack me? Let me finish. Let me finish.
Let's do this January 6th and then near.
I'm sorry you're getting emotional.
I'm sorry you're a condescending person who hasn't been paying attention to what I do.
Okay, stop, guys.
So here's the issue. I didn't support what happened on January the 6th.
I gotta rewind.
To call it out. I don't support.
I don't know if you guys heard it, but the woman that's sitting next to him, I think her name is Ashley, the woman that's sitting next to him, a black woman, and when he started going, well, I'm sorry that you're a condescending person. The woman sitting next to Scott, like right next to him, says, okay, like that's enough. Like, you can stop being manly. You could stop being aggressive towards her because I get that she was being rude, but she didn't deserve that because she's a woman. No, I'm glad Scott went after her just off of that. Well, you don't have to be patronizing to me. Well, you don't have to be a condescending witch either. You don't actually have to be disrespectful. You could just say, well, I don't think this, that, or third. I think that you might have thought that January 6th was a good thing. I mean, you're putting other people's ideas onto this person. You clearly don't know what he thinks because he obviously schools her. Let's let it continue.
Support the pardons. I have repeatedly, just like my friend Ashley here, said that no violence in our political system is acceptable. But this right here, what's going on with a guy who helps our country, who runs successful companies, who doesn't have to be doing this. And now one of his companies is under systematic terroristic threat and violence all over the country, and people seem to be laughing about it or fine with it. It's outrageous. I've sat at this table and had people say, we should cut Elon Musk from the government totally. He rescued our astronauts today. Is that what we want? The treatment of this guy is outrageous. These people who are doing this need to be found, put in jail, and made an example of. That's my point.
Anyone who commits violence against Tesla or Congress or anyone else should be put in jail, 1,000%. But that should not stifle dissent or opposition from Elon Musk.
Give it a little lip service. Give it a little both sides. Go ahead.
So John, let's do both sides here. I'm so sorry.
Okay. That's enough of that. I find it just entirely incredible that woman thought that she could try to play both sides at the end. That yes, of course, when someone does terrible things like destroy Teslas and destroy property of Congress, she's trying to lump these two together, that everybody who does these terrible things should obviously go to jail. It's like, well, right, why didn't you start off with that? Because you were being egregious, you're being disrespectful, and he comes out swinging, and you were surprised. Like, now you're shook. Now you're realizing that you can't just be that disrespectful to Scott Jennings. You're just not going to do that. But in that, they were talking about whether or not they don't know if Democrats are responsible for this. I mean, these were coordinated attacks all over the country going after Tesla. We're talking about the town halls as well, coordinated town halls, coordinated Tesla attacks. This don't sound like something conservatives would do.
And they're going crazy.
So now let's actually look at some of the history here about how we know as conservatives. I think we know. If you're watching this channel, we just know this was not Republican. This was not conservative. This is obviously the behavior of the radical left. They haven't gone away. It's obviously terrorism. I mean, Scott Jennings said that on this episode. That's what this is. It's terrorism. It's domestic terrorism. And it's about time people were actually made examples out of. I don't care if they're being manipulated. I don't care if they're being used. I don't care if they genuinely believe that they're saving the country. They're doing damage. They're harming people. They're destroying people's property. And, it's about time that something been done about this. So I'm going to show you guys an article. It was on Fox. And, I think it just breaks it down all the, the historical behavior of the radical left over these last, well, you could say decade, right? From the beginning of the Trump term, which was in 2016, up to currently. So let's go ahead and let's pull up that article, shall we? Okay, guys. So here is the story here from Fox. It says, meet the far left groups funding anti-DOGE protests at GOP offices across the country, right? Like that's what it says. Now let's just read this together. So it says the left-wing groups backing the anti-DOGE protests across the country have been funding a variety of progressive causes in recent years, including defunding the police, pushing socialism, anti-Israel protests, and opposing President Trump's agenda in general. We have moving forward. I mean, gosh, look at this guy, George Soros. It's like this ridiculous. Elon Musk has ramped up criticism of Soros in recent months. I skipped a lot, you guys. Just want to get to the meat of this. Particularly after former President Joe Biden awarded Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which was the most disrespectful thing I could possibly think of. On June 5th, 2020, Move On was calling for the defunding of police. This is one of the, activist organizations, A Black Life, and the group has been a vocal opponent of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, while promoting individuals who want to abolish the outfit and sharing a letter in February 2021 claiming that ICE and CBP were built to terrorize Black and Brown communities. Never mind that we've had illegals in the country, and we don't think that we should be trying to get rid of them. It's no surprise the Biden administration's favorite billionaires are paying for left activist groups to hold events designed to villainize Republicans. Another group involved in the protests against Musk's DOGE efforts has long been a major player in progressive politics. Constituents braved the bitter cold at recess actions organized by the Working Families Party. The Working Families Party said earlier this month, touting the group's efforts to organize protests in multiple states at the office of Republican officials. Now, when we go further and further down through this story, you guys, when you go through this story, I will link this in the description box for you guys. And when you go further and further into this, it lists some of the entities. It says that George Soros was a huge part of funding a lot of these radical leftist groups. DOGE has uncovered that a lot of our tax dollars have been going into these things as well, from the protests that you're finding at the town halls, where you think that this is coming from the constituents. Rather, it's people driving into the states, going to these town hall meetings and saying all these terrible things. But now this gives the left what they need to say. Oh, no. People are not happy with the DOGE. Now you have Democrat strategists saying Democrats really should not be trying to be vocal about their disliking of DOGE because no one really has an issue with shrinking the government. Black people do not have an issue with shrinking the government, okay? Women don't have an issue with shrinking the government. No American, okay, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican, has a problem with shrinking the government to size. And yet, the Democrats have chosen to make this the hill that they were going to die on. Now, anything to oppose President Donald J. Trump. That's what the article says, right? Anything. And George Soros is a huge part of that. Side note, you guys, the fact that we were willing to, kick out that college student who had a green card because he was standing with Hamas, saying that he was okay with the destruction of Western civilization. Why haven't we done anything about George Soros? I don't understand. This guy was an immigrant. Okay, I don't care that he has a status. I mean, you guys let me know what you think about that in the comment sections. I mean, should we be okay if we're okay with getting rid of people who hold green cards, people who've been citizens after being immigrants to this country and getting their citizenship? Are we okay with just kicking them out if we can prove, okay, not off of an assumption, because we could prove that George Soros is funding terrorists. That's what he's doing. He's been doing it since the beginning of Trump coming down the escalator. Like, he's been doing this. We've got proof. We know he's doing this. Why is he still here? That's enough of this article. Again, I am going to link this for you guys in the description box. So, what do we think? We saw the video clip with Scott Jennings where he's making it clear that regardless of what he thought about January 6th, like he said, he condemned this. And we're not here to talk about January 6th or his views on January 6th or the pardons. We're here to say that this is something that is not happening on the Republican side. The conservatives do not have a history of vandalism and violence, but that is in fact true with the left. Again, defunding the police. We had the Chop Chaz zones where people were dying. I don't know if you guys remember Lorenzo Sr. He did that interview with Hannity where his son was dying initially, and they would not let the ambulance in. People were getting hurt. When the left wants to do what they want to do, and they want to go ahead and they want to break laws and they want to manipulate the American people, they go ahead and they do it. And we've got proof that they're doing it. DOGE's got proof. We've seen this information. It's talked about all over the place among the conservative and the libertarians. If the Democrats want to die on the hill that says you don't want the government to shrink, that we don't want to cut the bureaucracy from the federal government, then they're going to need a lot of work. I mean, that's pretty much what Scott was saying. The woman that sat next to him, I wish I could have found that clip because I thought that was an incredible clip as well, where she was saying that she doesn't know if it's actually Democrats doing this. You don't know that Democrats are actually doing this?
What are you talking about?
I mean, it's quite obvious to me that this is clearly Democrat, clearly leftist. I won't also say it's the Democrats, right? These are far leftists. These are socialists who are being funded by a communist like George Soros. And we know this. There's proof of this in the article. We know. George Soros is funding this. That man got the Medal of Freedom, and he should be getting deported. He should be getting kicked out of our country. The man should be banished from the land, in my opinion. When they don't like what they're seeing, they lash out violently. And it's about time that we started seeing people get arrested. Like I said, people, they were going to make an issue out of this. They were going to try to stop President Trump, that we were going to see resistance. Maxine Waters says that Trump was the one that wanted to bring forward a civil war. No, actually, none of us want to see a civil war. We just know you're going to try something. Like, I feel like Abraham Lincoln knew that it was going to be a fight to free the people. He knew it was going to be a fight. I don't want to fight you. You could just accept that we're moving forward and we're moving towards the right thing. You could just accept that. But I know you're not. I know you're going to cause problems. And because of that, if it's war that you want, then it's war that you're going to get. We're going to war with our words. We're going to send the police in. We're going to arrest you because, hey, I'm all for funding the police. Arrest them, lock them up, throw away the key. I'm for it. Some of them should be deported, frankly. I just think that they should, starting with George Soros. That college kid was a problem, yes. But Soros, bigger problem for me. I really wish it was him. Really wish it was him. And I don't care that he's a billionaire. I don't care. I don't care that he's friends with Clinton. Get rid of him. He should go. We should see. Let him die in Hungary. I don't care. He's old. He's old enough. He can go die in his own home country. It ain't here. Thank you all for watching. Get in the comment sections. Let me know what you think about this whole thing, because let's call spade. We know damn well it's the Democrats. It's the left. Like, just own it. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night. God bless, and Kepla.